Hello, AP students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and I have your notes for Chapter 3, Biopsychology and the Foundations of Neuroscience, Part 7. And we're going to talk about the split brain. So, the question I have is, what is this? And I'm betting most of you probably identified this as the corpus callosum. This is the bundle of nerves that, for the most part, connects the two cerebral hemispheres. It's really responsible for helping us communicate between the left and the right hemispheres of our brains. And occasionally there can be some issues, especially if somebody has a very serious form of epilepsy. It may be, a situation where a person may have to have the corpus callosum severed due to the intensity of seizures, but it's kind of a rare deal. So this is a band of nerve cells that connect the two cerebral hemispheres that allows for the transferring of information between the two hemispheres. And what's interesting is because there have been people who have had this surgery, that there were some researchers that looked into maybe the overall impact of this type of surgery. And the two that kind of did some of the work were Roger Sperry and Michael Gazangia. And what they found is that patients who had had the split brain surgery appeared to be mentally and behaviorally unaffected by the surgery. It was under some really weird laboratory situations that you could see the maybe the impact of what would happen when the corpus callosum would be severed. And so they set up an experiment, and this actually helped them win the Nobel Prize at one point in time. And what they did is that the split brain patient could not identify an unseen object, such as a ball, when it was placed in their left hand, although they had no trouble naming that object when they put the ball into their right hand. Basically, the split brain patient, their information sharing across the corpus callosum couldn't happen. And yet, under everyday circumstances outside of the lab, they could get along quite well. What they found is that they had a few kind of weird situations when they interviewed some of their patients. They have one particular patient that told how his left hand would sometimes do things like unzip their pants or unbutton their shirts at inappropriate times when they were under a lot of stress. And what Sperry and Gazangia basically theorized is that the right hemisphere, which doesn't really have a lot of language ability, but does control the left hand, was trying to find a way to communicate, look at me. Okay, Sperry and Gazanga, for the most part, also found that the duality of consciousness in split brain patients, basically, it was as if each patient were like two separate individuals. And when different stimuli were presented to the opposite sides of the brain, the two hemispheres would respond very independently. And so this is like a kind of an example of how they set up this experiment. And you can take a look at that. Thank you very much.